I like the color of the scarves. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our council chambers today, the 28th of May, on beautiful downtown Belleville. I want to call the meeting to order and I'll call for attendance. And just be noted that Councillor Graham attended the in-camera session, but he had an appointment at 4:30. Item number 2 on our agenda, a moment of reflection to the clerk.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Amen. Thank you. Be seated. Item number 4, public, I apologize. Item number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Councillor Panchak.
Thank you. Item 8A7 is the electrical service contract for various City of Belleville locations. I am the neighbor of one of the companies that's involved in bidding on the project, and I believe it constitutes a conflict. Thank you.
And you've got the formal notice to the clerk. Thanks so much. Appreciate that. Anyone else around the queue? Councillor Thompson.
882, I've been consistent on declaring on that particular issue, and I feel that I should be declaring on an 882 tonight.
882?
It's on the...
Oh, that's fine. Yes, about that property. Thank you. No, appreciate that. Good call. Anybody else going around the queue? Seeing none, myself, I will be declaring a conflict on 8A1, the payday loan establishments. As I did on the 23rd of September, we have a commercial property a couple hundred yards away. 8B-4, Bill Belleville, item number 2 on the mineral project. And 8B5 and 8B6, the Viridian CHP projects. Obviously, I'm on the Viridian board, and I also chair the Business Development Committee, and I forwarded off the formal notes to the clerk. Item number 5, reading and confirmation of the minutes. Minutes of the regular council meeting the 14th of May and the regular in-camera session the 14th of May 2018. Moved by, moved by Councillor Carr. Thank you. Second by Councillor Panchak. All in favor? All opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item number 6, we have a deputation and some guests in the audience in the gallery today. We have Jan Zosiak and Aruna Alexander representing the Quinte Grandmothers Advocacy Network, GRAND, and United Nations Association Quinte Branch will make a deputation to council. Good afternoon, ladies. Good afternoon. You can come up to the podium there and hit that little button, and that thing will turn red. He will do that for you.
Oh, no, I don't. That's okay. That's good. Okay. Mayor Christopher and members of council, good afternoon. I'm Jan Solziak, and I'm a member of Grandmothers Advocacy Network, or GRAN, a nonpartisan network of volunteers working together across Canada to advocate at local, national, and international levels for the human rights of grandmothers and vulnerable children and youth in sub-Saharan Africa. Our goals include education, health care, and the ending of gender-based violence, an issue which affects many cultures and countries. We know that gender-based violence is a problem which crosses cultural, socioeconomic, and geographic boundaries. Each year, the United Nations addresses this issue with its Unite campaign. The purpose of this campaign is to raise awareness and take action to end violence against women and girls. A major part of the campaign is held during the 16 days of activism, from November 25th, which is the International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women, until December 10th, International Human Rights Day. During the campaign, the color orange is a key theme, unifying all activities. As a bright and optimistic color, it represents a brighter future for women, one free from violence. The campaign has now become known simply as the Orange Campaign. During the 16 days of activism, the UN calls upon civil society, governments, and UN partners to focus on issues relevant to preventing and ending violence against women and girls. This puts a spotlight on the implications and consequences of gender-based violence, which affects all classes of society. This includes refugees, migrants, Indigenous peoples, and the elderly. Also, during the 16 days of activism, Unite asks governments, organizations, and people all over the world to intensify their efforts to mobilize action domestically and globally. In an effort to orange the world, part of the initiative is to light up buildings and landmarks in symbolic support for the goal of the campaign to bring attention to the issue of violence against girls and women. Here in Canada, grand groups have taken up the challenge. They have held Orange campaign events from coast to coast and have successfully received support from their communities to participate in this initiative. As you can see from the photos in the PowerPoint, many municipalities agreed to light up key buildings or community landmarks in orange. In Canada, these communities range from large centres such as Vancouver and Toronto to small towns like Brighton and Fenelon Falls. This year, our local Quinte Grand Group is joining these communities in supporting the 16 days of activism. And I now will invite Aruna Alexander, founder and chair of the United Nations Association Quinte Branch, to share her perspective on the campaign.
Thank you, Jen, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. From our United Nations perspective, the Orange the World campaign brings together local and global efforts in working to end violence against girls and women. It is grounded in international human rights standards. The vision is for every woman to enjoy the same fundamental rights based on the values of equality, non-discrimination, inclusion, and human dignity. These values are fortified and protected by the rule of law and spelled out in the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The symbolic act of lighting up City Hall and landmarks using the color orange will proclaim and illuminate the goal of a bright future hoped for every girl and every woman in Belleville. A life that is free of violence. As municipal leaders, you will be mobilizing our community and leading change that bends towards justice. The City of Belleville will be inspiring its community to work together in eradicating the various forms of violence that prevent girls and women from reaching their full potential. As members of Council, you will be supporting sustainable human development. This is a crucial connection to our community's economic sustainable development through the participation of women in the workforce. The United Nations Association Quinte Branch recognizes that violence against women is an injustice of epic proportions and a strain on all of our societies. It crosses all generations, all nationalities, all communities. Therefore, we stand in support of our local Grandmothers Advocacy Network and its initiative to raise awareness and take action to end violence against girls and women by joining the United Nations Color the World Orange campaign. We thank you for your consideration of Grand's request.
At this deputation, we have 3 requests. That the Mayor of Belleville issue a proclamation declaring the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence to be read at City Council and at our opening gathering on November 25th. That Belleville City Council shine a spotlight on the issue of violence against women by lighting in orange City Hall and the Bridge Street Bridge for 1 or more days during the campaign. That permission be given to use Market Square and the Parrot Stage on Sunday, November 25th, 2018, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. for a 2 p.m. opening vigil. Gran is eager to see greater involvement in the Unite campaign. We want to keep the elimination of violence against women and girls at the top of local, national, and global agendas. This deputation is supported by the United Nations Association Quinte Branch, Quinte Grannies for Africa, Quinte Immigration Services, Business and Professional Women, both Belleville and Trenton clubs, Poverty Roundtable, Quinte Women in Business, Three Oaks Foundation, Canadian Mental Health Association, Community Development Council of Quinte, Warrior Women Quinte, Amnesty International Group 111, Canadian Federation of University Women, Belleville and District, and the Sexual Assault Centre, Quinte. Thank you for your attention, and we would be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for your deputation and presentation. Councillor Miller, question.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. Thank you very much for the deputation. As much as I can recall, this is the first time that we've been asked to support this, and I'm very, very much in favor of doing just that. Is this something relatively new across Canada, or is it more towards a new side for Belleville?
It's not new. It's the earliest I could see. Actually, I saw conflicting reports on the internet, but I know the UN started it in 1991. I know Brighton, it's the third year they will be doing it this year. I'm not sure the dates the other cities started across Canada, but it's not the first year.
We also have a new sign coming along the lines of the Toronto sign. Perhaps, if I could ask Councillor Thompson, do we have the capabilities of adjusting the color of that sign, or is it fixed? Through you, Your Worship.
Yep, go ahead. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you very much. I was going to bring that up. The new sign that we have ordered is being put together as we speak, and we did happen to pick one color where all the letters will be orange. And
all right, Councillor Thompson.
So we're very proud of that. And I'll let Councillor Miller finish. I guess got to make one other announcement. So.
Okay, thanks. And as much as I certainly support the three issues that you brought up, I would like to extend the request that it be covering the entire period from November 25th to December the 10th, and ask all managers or directors of city facilities to find ways that they too can ensure that we're displaying the orange colors during that period of time. Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Thompson, have a question?
Yeah, just if I may, just want to let the ladies or the members here know that the Inclusion Committee discussed this at quite at length on our last meeting just this week, and we passed a resolution supporting the local campaign and realized that violence is still a factor in our society, even in Belleville, worldwide, and our committee commends you for taking this project on, and wish you all the best, and we'll discuss where you would like the new sign located for that particular week. But it's really nice that we did pick the orange for this, not particularly for this particular project, it just happened to work that way. So, but you know, the Inclusion Committee supports your campaign, realizes that it's an ongoing effort, and we appreciate what you're doing in our community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no more, thank you very much on behalf of all the citizens of the City of Belleville for everything that you do, and thank you to all the Grammys and Grannies and Grandmas and the entire families that bring awareness to situations throughout the world. And we'll even make sure that through our senior executive, we'll send out a memo in November also. Maybe we get to all our senior execs and some orange ties also, because you know what, it's always nice to spread the word. So thank you so much for everything that you do. Appreciate that.
And now, Mayor Christopher, we have a small presentation.
For me? Thank you. Just for the record, I'm wearing orange. And nobody called me.
Please. orange scarf as a token of and we invite you...
Watch the hair.
Okay, we invite you to wear it as a sign of your support during the 16 days of activism.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. I work with pride. Thank you very much. Can we get a great big team picture? Okay, hang on. Can you just get, there's the media standing here. I'll walk back there and get a team picture with everybody.
Oh, the orange. Hey, Jen.
Okay, as the ladies are leaving, I just need a motion to receive that deputation and end violence against women and children, girls, and the Orange Campaign during the 16 days of activism against the gender-based violence, November the 25th to the 10th, 2018. Be received. Moved by Councillor Denier, second by Councillor Miller. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, item number 8 on our agenda, Committee of the Whole. Motion to go into Committee of the Whole and to hear the consider reports passing the recommendations and resolutions with Councillor Miller in the chair. Moved by Councillor Graham, second by Councillor Panchak. All in favor? That's carried. Oh, I apologize. There's someone else on my mind. Councillor Panchak. He seconded the motion. Everybody good? I had Councillor Miller in the chair. Everybody okay with that? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. 8A reports. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. Mayor has declared a conflict on 8A1, payday loan establishment restrictions. Director of Corporate Services Clerk's Report number DCS 2018-21. Resolution is that pursuant to the Director of Corporate Services Clerk's Report number DCS 2018-21, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 2006-140, business licensing bylaw related to payday loan establishments be prepared for council's consideration. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Carr and Councillor Panchak. It's on the floor. Comments or questions? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did speak to this briefly when I brought the initial motion forward to get to the staff report, and so I won't be long, but just want to emphasize the fact that when you look at North Front Street, for example, there's actually more payday lending facilities than there are actual banks. And I recognize that these are legal entities that are allowed to operate, but it's astounding as you read the report here, and I touched on this earlier. The criminal code allows for 60% interest, and yet payday loans at an APR of $15 for $100 is 390%, and it's astounding. And I recognize the fact that this speaks to a bigger issue. It speaks to the fact that we have people in our community. We have a poverty rate of 17%. People aren't making the money they could. We recognize the fact that there are gaps that require these type of short-term loans. The problem is different than the banking industry, where if you take a loan out at a commercial bank and you have a lot of debt, that follows you around, and the banking industry understands that once you've hit your maximum. Here, and I've heard personal examples in our community where people have gone from one short-term loan place to another, to another, to another, to turn around and try to pay back that first loan. And so it is a very vicious cycle. It's unfortunate that at the provincial level that they think it's acceptable to have 390% rate. So where we are today is we have approximately 10 in our community. And for a community our size, I would argue that's saturated. I would argue that it doesn't send a very good signal in terms of where our community's at. It also tells us that we have to come to action on some other items. and that's to make sure that people have actually a fair wage. And I know that, again, it's outside our jurisdiction, but the reality is, you know, I spoke on this before, as far as I'm concerned, the minimum wage hasn't helped. What should have been done is raising the personal exemption for taxes so that there's actually money in people's pockets. But the reality is we live with what we have here. Other communities, larger communities, and it was not too long ago, Toronto, Hamilton, were centered out and even Belleville in that same discussion about the fact that we've got to do something. The province gives us an opportunity here. What the proposal is 3 separate zones. They're going to grandfather in the ones that exist, so we're not eliminating thing. But I have a hard time supporting and allowing these things to continue to fester, and that's the best way to look at it. Is you know, I had somebody say to me today, well, you're kind of stymieing business. Well, I don't think this is the business that we really want in our community that's preying on people that are financially vulnerable. So I appreciate the fact, too, that the Poverty Roundtable has provided us with a report. This is some of the background that they shared with me in discussions in the Community Development Council. So these agencies that are actually there supporting the people that are using these things recognize that they're not good. They're not good. They're not healthy from a financial perspective, and there's other ways and means that we have to combat poverty. So I'm going to be supporting this, obviously. I think this is a good step. It sends the message here that we're turning the tap off and allowing these to continue to grow, and there'll be enough of these establishments here for those who need them in the short term.
Anyone else? Councillor Panchuk.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I'm pleased to second this motion, just like I was pleased at the March 26th meeting where we asked staff to bring this resolution back to us, and I'd like to thank staff for doing this. I'd also like to congratulate Councillor Carr on this issue. He's been a tireless advocate for this, and you know, as is often the case, I learn something when I hear him speak about these types of issues. I was surprised to hear that the federal government limits the maximum interest rate in Canada at 60%. But the provincial government in Ontario has exempted that rule, that law, to allow upwards to 400% interest rates for these types of establishments. I recognize that this is illegal. These are legal businesses conducting legal affairs in the province of Ontario. But sometimes we, as different levels of government, we need to regulate to protect our city and its citizens. And I believe that this is what we are doing by supporting this resolution, very similar to we have in other areas. So I would like to encourage everyone to support this. I know this will not eliminate the businesses that are here or them being in the future in this regulated manner, but I certainly hope that we can continue to do the work which eliminates the needs for using these types of businesses for our residents. When that happens, I think individuals will be healthier and happier, families will be healthier and happier, and we'll have a better community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Panchuk. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Councillor Carr, for bringing this forward. I notice in the audience today we have a number of people from different agencies, and I've been out to the Poverty Roundtable for a few meetings and realized that what they're pushing forward, this is certainly one of the aspects that hurts a lot of our people, and it's not only the low-income people that are being affected by this. There's people that are earning good livings, medium livings, that are being caught in this spiral of borrowing from these people and being caught one after another, and young people. So I just want to note that we have some of those agencies here and are very concerned, and I would encourage everybody to support this motion of Councillor Carr's, that it's a good aspect, that it would be great if we could eliminate some of them, but that we can't do at this stage. So by restricting these 3 areas, at least we stop the progression of them. And one question, when we have that 3 zones, can somebody else open another one in those 3 zones?
I'll refer your question to Mr. McDonald.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. So in the 3 zones, once established through the licensing bylaw, one new business per zone would be able to open. That would be the cap, and any of the current businesses, if they were to shut their door, that would be the end in the zone. So that would be the restriction. That's the intent of what's being proposed today.
So, if I understand, so we would have to allow one more in each zone if they came forward.
Through the chair, as of today, anybody that's operating a business under this restriction is able to continue, and one per zone more, and then that's the end of it. And anybody that stops would be no more.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Boyce.
Thank you. And just a statement, and I think everyone would agree that the real issue isn't just simply eliminating these, because the real issue is the evident poverty that we have in the area. So I agree, we're going to eliminate them, but the next council that sits at this table must put forth an effort to work closely with the Poverty Roundtable, and we're on the right direction. And I also want to thank Councillor Carr for bringing it forward.
Thank you. Councillor Boyce. Anyone else? I'll call the vote. All in favor? Passed. Mayor is back. Councillor Thompson has declared a conflict on 8A2, City Representation, Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, Appeal of Amendment to Zoning Bylaw Number 10245, as amended, 250 Sydney Street, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1044. The applicant owner, 258-9989 Ontario, Inc. The agent, Baldwin Law, care of Gregory Parker. Director of Engineering and Development Services Report number DEDS 2018-03. The resolution that further to the Director of Engineering and Development Services Report number DEDS 2018-03, the Council of the Corporation of the City of Belleville directs that the City Solicitor represent the City's interests as required before the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal regarding Council's decision to deny the zoning bylaw amendment for file number P77-1044. And I have a motion to put it on the table, please. Councillor Daniels, Councillor Panchuk, discussion. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. If Councillor Daniels is making this motion without amendment, I won't second it.
Okay. Did you want...
My intention, I don't know what Councillor Daniels is planning. My intention would be to amend it that the solicitor not be instructed to defend the city's position on this matter.
Okay, so that's contrary to the recommendation in front of us. So I have a mover for this. Do I have a seconder?
For the motion on the floor.
To put it on the floor.
For this motion,
For this
original motion.
Yeah. Councillor Boyce?
No, not for this motion.
Oh, okay. I'm calling for a seconder on the motion that Councillor Daniels has put forward that's on the floor. Your Worship. Okay, discussion. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you. Given the deputation that came to the podium that we heard at our last council meeting, several council meetings ago, I think it's incumbent upon this council to have a lawyer represent us at the table under the new LPAT system. As we read in the report by our staff, that it's a new it's a new form of appeal, and given the fact that we haven't gone through this appeal before, I think it would be in our best interest to have legal representation. The deputation at the podium changed the wording. It denied the public input that they had at planning, and it also denied further input when he was standing at the podium. And the one last thing I would have to say is that, given how the legalization and recreational cannabis use will have an impact on our municipality, and in fact, in all Canadian municipalities in the near future. I think that the City of Belleville, along with other Ontario municipalities, need to be cognizant and very cautious on what may or may not be regulated under land use planning laws in our own jurisdictions. And so for that reason, I think we need council at the table to give us some guidance in that matter.
Any other discussion? Councillor Boyce?
Yeah, this is an issue where it really bothers me that we're going to be spending money. I knew it was coming down this road, and I said we'll likely be spending money on a lawyer to defend the decision of council. I understand around council, I don't always get my way on votes, and I understand it, and I understand it's important to protect the city interests. However, it frustrates me that we've gone this far, and I want to know from staff if there is an opportunity to, before this tribunal occurs, to sit down with the other party and work something out that can come to council so that we don't have to go through this. In the process, is there pre-discussion before you get to a tribunal? And is there any opportunity to sit down one more time with this group?
Director Beauvais?
Through the chair to Councillor Boyce, the short answer is yes, there is. The new system puts a premium on working towards a mediated settlement to these issues, not necessarily going straight to a hearing. So I expect the local planning appeal tribunal will review the file, and they will come back and ask that the city sit down with the applicant and see if there is any common ground and see if any type of settlement can be made in the matter.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I want, in the strongest words possible, I want the city to sit down. I don't want our lawyer. I don't want our lawyer present initially. I want the ability for the city to work down and resolve what I personally think is not a difficult request to do. So I will be not supporting that the lawyer attend. I have confidence, as the original report had stated, that when it all first started at planning, before planning changed it, I have confidence that staff will be able to sit down and get this through.
Thanks, Councillor Boyce. I'm going to ask the city clerk if he can comment in terms of whether an amendment potential exists to the motion, or if you're even interested in that. It's a somewhat new process with this tribunal, and so we have options that perhaps we may not have had in the past under the old system. So if the city clerk wouldn't mind perhaps giving us whatever information you can, please.
Well, through the chair to Councillor Boyce, I would say staff, the city, having not gone through it, probably none of us are familiar with it. I think the report in front of you is simply asking whether we have a solicitor represent us at the tribunal. There's been a reconsideration, as you're aware, on the actual report. So ultimately, the decision of council being asked for today is whether to have solicitor represent the city, or if that's denied, my understanding would be staff would represent the city at the tribunal. End of story. It's not that we, outside the tribunal, the appeal has been filed with my office. It's gone to the tribunal. I'm sure I have forwarded to planning staff the scheduling of the tribunal dates. So staff will represent the city if a solicitor doesn't. So they'll go through the process that the director has just identified for you, with or without a solicitor, and they'll go through the process that Director Beauvais just identified for you, representing the city's best case for the appeal in a position that was identified by council.
So essentially, because of the decisions by council, it's going to the tribunal unless it can be satisfied beforehand. So the question in front of us is, do you want a lawyer there, or do you want city staff there? And as has been pointed out in the report by Mr. Bove, that city staff may in fact be called to speak on behalf of the applicant. And so that obviously is a situation that would be, I wouldn't even call it tricky, awfully tough. Councillor Panchuk.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I wonder if I can ask either the Director of Corporate Services or the Director of Development. This will be the first time the city is being represented through this process. Am I not correct? So this is the first time through the LAS process. And can we have an indication of what the budget would be for legal expenses? Now, I would understand that being this is the first time through the process, there would be a fair amount of prep work to familiarize the new procedures, the new structures, the new, as I use this overused word, process of there. Do we have an estimate on what we'll be budgeting for legal fees to defend the city's decision on this?
Director Bove, please.
Through the chair to Councillor Panchuk, I think you're right. There will be some initial fees that will apply because it's our first time through this process. But I will say in all of the research I've done, the change to this process is intended to make the process a less adversarial process, so that there's less involvement from lawyers, more reliance on planning consultants submitting detailed planning reports with their applications. And the tribunal's basic function is simply to look at an application and confirm whether it complies with provincial legislation and municipal official plan and zoning bylaws. And if they find that it does, then they're likely not even to hold a hearing to start with. They're likely to refer the issue back to the municipality, and they may be looking at the municipality to reconsider the decision they've made, whether that's for or against an application. So we expect to be much less adversarial. There's less reliance on expert witnesses as there was at the OMB, so the submissions made with an application are the evidence that the tribunal will rely on to make its decision. They won't be a need for both parties to call expert witnesses to come testify, which of course can increase the cost substantially. So I think the first one is probably not going to be any different than a regular OMB hearing in terms of cost to the city, but going forward, I think anytime we're in this situation, I think our cost per event at the tribunal will be substantially less.
Yeah. But I'm taking from the answer that still for the very first local planning appeal tribunal, there's a fair amount of work, and we pay a pretty hefty hourly rate to our lawyers. It's a pretty large expenditure for something to which I think we didn't make the right decision on. We made a mistake on. I think sometimes you need to do the right thing. I voted for this proposal at the Planning Committee. I voted at City Council when we first came up on, and we lost it on a 4-4 tie. It's a recorded vote. I voted again on another recorded vote to reconsider it. I'm sure the Planning Tribunal may send us back and say, hey, you should reconsider it, but unfortunately, our procedural bylaw limits us in what we can do. So, again, I'll repeat myself, sometimes you need to do the right thing. And the right thing is not to spend more good money after bad money fighting a decision to which, had we as the city provided leadership to make sure that the application came to us buttoned up. I recognize that the presentation made by the lawyer at planning changed by the time it came to City Council. That's on us as a group. We should have had that identified, that changed. The applicant made a presentation to have a deputation, and then they pulled it back. There was plenty of time for our leadership to say, hey, what's going on with this application? We need to have a meeting. We need to iron out these details. What exactly are we looking at? Instead, it came to City Council. On a 4-4 tie, it failed. and everyone was confused about what it is we were talking about or how we were doing it. So, yes, the presentation wasn't good, but the city didn't help fix it before it came to us. What we're talking about is 50 lab coat jobs, which are important. It's important to not send a message to the greater community that Belleville is not open for business, that if you have a proposal and you want to do something and you bring it to us, we're going to turn it down, even if it is 50 research and development high-paying jobs. I'm going to vote against this. I don't think we should have a lawyer represent us. I hope the tribunal overturns the decision of Belleville City Council, allows it to go forward, because after the last meeting where we turned down the reconsideration, we're not able to fix our mistake now. On a 5-1 vote, we turned that down. So I'll be voting against this, and if it fails, I'll introduce a motion that we not have our lawyer represent the city.
Okay, and the 5-1 vote was not against it. It was actually in support. Yeah. Councillor Carr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This file's a mess. It's the best way to put it. So with that, and because there was some confusion, and I'm not confused, it's quite clear here, but because there's been so much confusion on this file, I'm going to request a recorded vote on this one. The long and short of it was, you've got the legal counsel of the landowner pitching the idea of zoning and what the operation is going to be, but the entity missing in the equation and having the conversations and actually laying it out is the operator, which is missing. And the legal counsel for the landowner did his best, but I would argue that he is not well versed in terms of the operation or the licensing or the requirements of Health Canada, and it was quite clear. Because when he went away after planning and he came back at council, his instructions had changed. And that's when he brought in the change. Yet again, no operator there to verify this is exactly what's happening. So I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm going to point fingers. The reality is that presentation changed. And we have a planning committee set up. We have allowances for input, and that changed. And if they wanted the application to be reconsidered because it changed, then it should have been a request to refer it back to planning, which I think we would have dealt with. Then somewhere in that council meeting, things went completely sideways, and some people didn't know what they were voting for, quite frankly. When you see the recorded votes and how it plays out, it was all over the map. I voted in favor of it. The zoning change, the operation, the research and development. I voted in favor to bring it back on, or I voted against tabling it. I voted in favor of reconsidering it. I can't get more clear that this should have proceeded. So the fact that the local planning appeal tribunal process is in play, this works to our favor. It's less adversarial, and the philosophy is basically that it allows for items to go back to the municipalities, as Director Bove alluded to try again, which I think is a good measure. It's something I know that municipalities across Ontario, we've advocated for time and time again to not let the OMB dictate how our municipalities to unfold. So I don't see the need, quite frankly, in spending the money on a city solicitor for the tribunal to turn around and bring this back. Since we couldn't do it on a reconsideration, as Councillor Panchuk, our hands are tied based on procedure here. But the reality is that had this process proceeded through the applicant with the operator, and as Councillor Panchuk said, and I agree wholeheartedly, get some staff on board to help walk through the process of this application to make sure it gets right. But to change it on the fly at a podium when you've pretty much pitched your idea at the planning committee, we've had ample opportunity for the community around them to have input. The committee itself put in measures in order to satisfy some of the concerns of the surrounding neighbors, yet at the same time is promote research and development in an emerging industry. And so I think at this point, I'm not going to be voting in favor of the solicitor. There's absolutely no way that we should be spending any money on this file. It is a mess, and there was confusion. Let's let city staff talk to the other applicant there and have a conversation, and if the tribunal orders it back, great, and then we can look at it again. But let's be very clear, if that does happen, I think it's very important that we get the operator involved in the conversations as well. I recognize this is zoning, but there's always an end game to it. And my concern from a planning perspective, and this is something that I always guard against, is you pitch one idea at one committee meeting and you pitch another idea at council, and then the reality of what you actually operate is changed the third time. And that's not fair to the community who is expecting this is the way it's going to be, and it's not fair to the people trying to make decisions when you've got a moving target at all times. So I know I spoke a lot on this, but I was hoping to have a conversation about this last meeting, but it didn't go that way. But the reality is that we have an opportunity here to get this back through a formal process, and I think we should.
Anyone else, Your Worship?
Just for some clarity, I just want to make clear, regardless of what the lawyer or the deputation said or did at council meeting, the resolution that was approved at planning was the same resolution that came to council, correct? I just need to make sure. So you're telling me it was different?
Well, the wording was different.
No, just a second. I just need some clarity on that, because that came up in council, that regardless of what the gentleman was saying at the podium, council should be focused on the resolution that was recommended and forwarded to council from planning. So you can
Are you asking the clerk, or?
Well, I'm asking the chair.
The chair, I can confirm that what came to council came out of planning.
Thank you. It was the exact same one that was approved by our planning committee in PAC, correct?
Right.
Thank you. So regardless of what the gentleman said at the podium, it was totally irrelevant. Council was looking at the resolution that was before him that came from planning, and it was approved at planning to go forward with the project. Thank you. I'm good.
Anyone else? Recorded vote has been requested. Mr. Clerk?
Councillor Carr?
No.
Councillor Deniers?
Yes.
Councillor McCaw?
No.
Councillor Miller?
No.
Councillor Panchuk?
No.
Councillor Boyce?
No.
Mayor Christopher?
Yes, thank you.
Motion fails.
So as a procedural point, do we need a motion to direct that lawyers not represent the city, or this is sufficient for that action to happen?
I would suggest, and I'll leave it to the clerk, I guess, but according to this, we've turned down having a lawyer there,
So okay.
I don't think we need a separate motion.
Thank you, Councilor Miller.
If I could just ask a late question, the motion's passed. A procedure between now and the tribunal, to Mr. Beauvais, Director Beauvais, is there any discussion with the applicant between now and then to try and resolve it, or does it just now move on through to that phase?
Through the chair, to the chair, the file has been sent to the tribunal, so they will be reviewing the file, and then they will actually, I believe it's their procedure now is they must establish a time for all the parties to get together to have a pre-consultation review of the file to determine the best way to proceed forward with it. So at some point we'll expect a meeting scheduled with the tribunal.
Does that afford opportunity for a resolution before that?
I'm not aware that it does, but this is really new stuff for everybody, so we may go through it and find out at some point that we can do that, but as of right now, I don't believe that we have an opportunity until they've at least had a chance to review the file.
Thank you very much. So essentially, staff will be representing both sides. We'll let Councillor Thompson come back. Item 8A3, request for proposals, RFP Engineering 2018-16, consulting services for the design of the Saginaw Bridge rehabilitation. Senior Project Manager's Report number ENG 2018-15. The resolution that the proposal submission from D.M. Willis Associates Limited be accepted for RFP ENG 2018-16, consulting services for the design of the Saginaw Bridge rehabilitation in the amount of $110,110 plus $14,314.30 HST for a total dollar amount of $124,424.30. This being the most qualified proposal received, and that the mayor and the city clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the city of Belleville, and that the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Boyce, Councillor Danius. Discussion? All in favor? And that is passed. Contract number 884, RFP-TOS-2018-14, RIA 2018 backhoe loader with extendable backhoe, Capital and Fleet Asset Managers Report number CFAM 2018-08. The resolution that the request for proposal submission from Strong Co. Limited Partnership be accepted for contract number RFP-TOS 2018-14, RIA 2018 backhoe loader with extendable backhoe in the amount of $133,400 plus $17,342 HST for a total amount of $150,742, this being the most qualified proposal received, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the city of Belleville, and that the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Motion, please. Your worship and Councillor Carr. Any discussion? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Miller. On the, I know we're approving it from Stroco, but if you look back, Nortrax has an estimate of 122 plus 9,100 for the extras, which still brings us under budget, but yet includes the options that they said doesn't really need to be purchased. But if we added the options to that particular unit, is it still a better value to go with the Strongco?
I'll direct that to Manager Reid.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson. Both the JCB and the John Deere did not meet all the specifications in the contract itself. The options that were listed were for a greaser option and others, which was kind of over and above the base backhoe itself. Kind of the highlights why we chose to go with the Strongco / which is a case unit. The JCB does not hook up to all the attachments compared to the other units. The JCB does not have the horsepower that was actually specified in the contract documents. John Deere does not meet the lifting requirements. Both the JCB and the John Deere does not meet over the center design of the rear digging arm, which creates problems for balance in our situations where we're doing water main and sewer water repairs. Overall, the evaluation committee felt that the unit from Strongco, the case backhoe, is the best unit for our needs.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Passed. 885, purchase of two 2019 International Tandem Axle trucks, Capital and Fleet. Is that thing on? Capital and Fleet Asset Managers Report number CFAM-2018-10. Resolution that the request for proposal submission from Tallman Truck Center be accepted for the supply and delivery of two in-stock 2019 International Tandem Axle plow trucks in the amount of $606,129.68 plus $78,796.86 HST, total of $684,926.54, this being the lowest cost proposal received, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the city of Belleville, and that the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Your worship moves it. Councillor Panchuk seconds it. Any questions? Your worship.
Thank you. I support the purchase in front of us. Just clarity on the background. Unit 209, 210, and 215 are going to be replaced. So are they still in inventory to the chair, or did we sell those as used pieces of equipment?
Manager Reid, please.
Through the chair to Mayor Christopher, the one unit is still, we both do own both units. The one didn't pass safety, so it's kind of sitting for the meantime. These units are desperately needing to be replaced.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor? And that passes. 8A6, 2018 budget amendments for LT care cost increases. Director of Finance Treasurer's Report Number DF 2018-16. That pursuant to the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report Number DF 2018-16, 2018 budget amendments, LT care cost increases. Council approve option 6, dealing with LT care costs increase, and staff prepare the necessary 2018 operating and capital budget amendments for council consideration. Councillor McCaw, Councillor Thompson. Any discussion on option 6? Councillor Panchak.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I wonder if I can just ask, regarding the, can we just have an explanation of the items and item 6, I'm talking about deferring capital issue, the Alexander Street, John Street to Charles Street, the road design issue for Avondale Road, and the road design for Bridge and Sydney Street. So what exactly will that result in terms of an amendment for the city? Because the way I read it, it was a little confusing. So we're deferring items and we're adding items. I'm just trying to understand how that...
Director Cousins, or did you want
I can
to be involved too?
Well, we've had a discussion about this
Okay.
issue anyways. First of all, Council has never formally approved the increase for the long-term care costs, so that has to be an amendment to the operating budget. That would generate or cause the operating budget to increase by approximately $400,000 on those two issues. I've given you previously 5 options on if you don't want to, you have to increase the operating costs for long-term care, and if you don't do anything, and I gave you 5 different options on how we could solve that issue. And I don't think the first 5 are very viable. I'm not recommending them unless council wishes to do that. So 6A or 6, amend operating issue 905, long-term care, Hastings Manor. We're increasing the budget by $291,300. The next issue is 906, long-term care, Centennial Manor. We're increasing that amount by $89,500. So to avoid having options 1 to 5 have discussion and reissue tax bills and open up the operating budget, Council had already approved the capital budget back in November. There was the issue of the Alexander Street, John Street, Charles sewer separation project. This issue was discussed internally in October when we were presenting the capital budget, and it was anticipated that this project would be a continuation of sewer separation project, and that the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund Part 2 would be available, and we could dip into that to continue this project. And I gave you the financing in the report, gross cost 3.1. Some money from taxation, $630,000. CWWF was anticipated that we would use just over $2 million. Well, since that time, we haven't, staff, and I don't think any municipality has heard anything about the Clean Water or Wastewater Fund, Phase 2. And we have a provincial election coming up in a couple of weeks, so we have no idea. They were party to the feds in this agreement, and to be honest, we haven't heard anything, and engineering hasn't heard anything, and I don't think any municipalities have heard anything about whether the Clean Water and Wastewater Fund Phase 2 is going to be available. So finance and engineering had talked about this, and this had been discussed previously. There was a couple of projects that when we were doing the internal budget, we deferred a couple of things. some road design work. Avondale Road had been discussed before, and basically we had deferred it. When it was presented to council, it was deferred, and then hopefully in 2019, again, Bridge Street and Sydney Street intersection was discussed internally about going forward. And it was internal staff decided, well, we can do it, we can wait till 2019. So what the plan is to basically defer the capital project 1-002, the Alexander Street, for the $3.1 million. That would free up $630,000 of funding to the operating budget. That could offset the long-term care costs of approximately $400,000 and leave us with almost $50,000 available. So instead of reducing the operating budget and then redoing the tax rates and everything, it was decided that we could allocate that $250,000 available by deferring this capital project to those two road design projects, the Avondale and the Bridge and Sydney Street intersection.
Okay. Great, thank you. If I can just follow up on that. So I'm not sure if this will go to Director Beauvais or to Manager Reid, but so this sewer separation project on Alexander Street, are staff anticipating that comes back in the 2019 capital budget as a project to work on by then?
Director Beauvais.
Through the Chair to Councillor Panchuk, we would look to bring it back at such time as the federal/provincial funding program moves forward, or in whatever form it takes. So that's the type of project we would look for a funding partner on to move forward. If that's in 2019, we'd certainly propose it within the budget, or wait until those programs come back around to us.
Right, and while he's on his feet, just the other items. So Avondale Road, we're gonna speed up the funding or the project work because we need to. How much time will allocating these funds? How much time will that save us in the sense of speeding up the process for residents in that area?
Well, we had proposed the design work as part of the 2018 capital budget, and they were, along with 6 or 7 other projects, deferred. Certainly at the staff level, we think the Avondale Road and the Bridge Sydney one are 2 priority projects that really need to be addressed. So the sooner we get started with the design, the sooner we can bring it forward for capital funding within next year's budget, for instance, and then we can move forward with the project. The variables, Avondale Road is fairly straightforward. It's a very wide road allowance. We don't anticipate having to acquire much of any property to do that street. The Bridge, a city intersection, different story. Good and bad news. Good news, we own 2 of the corners, so we'll definitely need property there. Bad news is we probably need property from the other 2 corners, and we don't own those ones, so there'll be some negotiations with those property owners, and that takes time, as you've seen with a lot of other projects. So it should help speed up the Avondale Road project, and because we have to do environmental assessment on Sydney and Bridge as well, it'll just get us started that much sooner so that construction can occur potentially in 2020 or 2021.
With respect to Avondale Road, residents have been complaining about that road for many, many years, and this is great news. What exactly is the design proposing to do? Is that a complete excavation and replacing with curbs and sidewalks along that road? Is it, or is it just a shave and pave project?
That would be a total reconstruction. There is no storm sewer on Avondale, so it's open ditches. The road is in pretty rough shape. It has been patched when water main work was done there, probably 20, 25 years ago. So it will be a total reconstruction of the street with new curb and gutter.
Good. And then I'll just, and lastly on the Bridge in Sydney Street, I appreciate staff bringing it forward. proposed this during the last capital budget, and I was unsuccessful in getting it. This is part of that Sydney Street corridor. It's very important. Not doing the design work just slows down the whole project, so I'm happy to see those two projects. I'm disappointed for the residents at Alexander Street because of the sewer separation not going forward now, but out of something that's not so good, something good comes of it. We can pursue those other two projects and meet our requirements. Last, I'll just ask, I guess, the clerk or the CAO. I understand that that we requested a legal opinion with respect to the agreements, and even though we are funding these, I still think it's worthwhile to have that agreement come to council, probably in a closed session meeting to get the opinion of our lawyer.
Perhaps you could bring that part of it up under new business, and I agree with you, but as far as any kind of an update or going forward as it doesn't pertain to this particular
I'm just going to recommend that continue to happen and that we get it later. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Just before I call a vote, we threw a curveball at Treasury with that motion at the last meeting. I want to thank Director Cousins and the staff involved for finding a way that will satisfy everybody going forward with this proposal. So thank you for that. All in favor? And that passes. 8A7, Councillor Panchuk has declared a conflict. Electrical services contract for various cities of Belleville City of Belleville locations. Property Supervisor's Report, PS 2018-05. Resolution that the request for proposal submission from 151-8000 Ontario Inc. OA Horwood Electric Services be accepted for the supply of electrical services in the amount of $65 per hour regular rate, $97.50 per hour overtime and stat holiday rate for a licensed electrician, and $42 per hour regular rate, $63 per hour overtime and stat holiday for electrician's apprentice, this being the highest scoring submission received, and that the Mayor of the City Clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the Corporation of the City of Belleville, and that the City Clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Councillor McCaw, seconder. No seconder. Going twice, Your Worship. Okay, it's on the floor. Councillor Thompson.
Just looking at the figures here on page 35, it quotes, as in the motion, the $65 and $42. And if you look down through the quotes, we've got a lot of quotes that are a lot lower than those particular quotes. As a matter of fact, that quote is about the fourth in the middle of all these quotes, or a little above the middle. And it says part of the reason is that $25,000 was spent on lifts and scissor lifts, excavators, bucket trucks, and forklift trucks. How many hours a year, from the lowest would be $35, how many hours a year would we spend on an electrician in our municipality?
If it's okay with council, Mr. McGlashan, the property supervisor, is in attendance, and we'd like to invite him to the podium if council's okay. Yep. No objections, so welcome, Mr. McGlashan.
Through the chair to councillor, I can't explain exactly how many hours or dollars are spent on the electrical service per se per year. I can speak to the report in the scoring process that we did go through a rigorous evaluation process with a lot of different factors considered, from the number of staff available to the after hours considerations to the equipment availability to the equipment which they can service.
So those particular units that we have, we don't have any of those particular units. The scissor lifts, the excavator, bucket truck, forklift truck, we don't have any of those particular units in our inventory.
We do, through some of our different departments, have that equipment available. The issue is a lot of the electrical service repairs that come up are immediate repairs. They're not necessarily scheduled repairs. So to go to Public Works and say that I require now your equipment for the next 3 hours to do a repair becomes very challenging. So most cases, we end up renting the equipment required.
But if you look at, if I may, if you look at the dollars, we're almost doubling the fee from the lowest to the next, or to the one that we're recommending. To say a $25,000 savings is going to cover the extra cost, I certainly would like to know how many hours that we spend an electrician, and I certainly don't want to bring in any situation we're unhappy with our last contract, because we're dealing now with the new contract. But I'm not going to agree with this one. There's just too much difference in the cost estimates in those two quotes. So,
Thank you, Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you, Councillor Miller. Just a few questions, if I might, along the same lines of Councillor Thompson. The fee is about a 30% increase. Do we have a contractor so far doing this? And if so, for how long have we had that contractor doing this?
Through the Chair to Council, we have had a previous contractor in place. The contract has since expired, so we have been going through different contractors in the area currently to carry us through.
So you cannot give us the billable hours or even an average of at this point?
Through the Chair to Council, I don't have the billable hours on my fingertips. I can work backwards through finance to acquire what's been paid out hourly.
And just one more, if I might. As I was reading this, it said that the selection for Horwood Electrical Services, part of that was based on the fact that they had more experience with solar. But our city has had solar for a while, and the last contractor obviously knew what they were doing along that line. Is the last contractor one of the contractors that have bid on this?
The last contractor is one of the contractors that has bid on this. The last contractor did not have significant solar experience, not from what was provided in documentation and not for the services provided to the city.
So I'm just going to follow up. I'm not prepared to support this either. If this contractor was good enough to do it, even though he might not have been perfect, 30% increase certainly doesn't warrant that in my mind, and I would ask that we amend this if we could. Thank you.
Councillor Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming to the podium. Of the $25,000 that the city rents, is that the entire amount? Is the $25,000 what is required by the electrician, or is that perhaps other departments that take out the $25,000?
So, sorry, through the Chair to Council, through the course of the year, we do lighting retrofits in various buildings. When we go through the process, we rented lifts to accommodate the changes of the fixtures. When we changed or did repairs to the transit terminal lights on the standards, we rented a lift. So each one of those lifts, we pay for a delivery charge, a return charge, and the rental time as well on the equipment. So that's all specific plus to the building department.
Okay.
Building services, sorry.
So it's all specific to building services, but and so is it all specific then to electrical work?
Yes.
Okay, and then when you were doing your evaluation, the other 5 companies, did you ask them, do you have a forklift and all these equipment? Is that how it was based?
Through the Chair to Council, we asked specifically for equipment lists, as well as experience, as well as the number of employees they have, their availability, their markup on materials. There were a large number of factors that we considered in this process.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. McGlashan, who was the evaluation committee? And the reason why I ask is we've looked at other reports where there's been tenders, and there's an evaluation committee as to who evaluated this.
So the evaluation and the scoring, through the Chair to Council, the evaluation and the scoring was completed by myself, Joel Carbrandt, Ted Marichak, and Peter Ling.
Okay, thank you. So, and I know a couple questions have already been asked, so I just want to get clarity here. The contract expires, or has expired with our current provider, and if so, when did that occur?
Through the Chair to Council, I believe it expired at the end of last month.
So in the meantime, how have we been allocating work out?
Through the chair to council, we've been calling local companies to complete services in each one of the buildings.
How do we pick those companies?
We have randomly chose companies locally
Okay.
as an interim.
So how many companies in the list provided here in terms of the provided proposal did you use?
3 of them.
3 of them? Okay.
Yes.
The contract that just expired, how long was that contract?
I believe, sorry, through the chair to council, I believe it was 3 years plus 2 one-year extensions.
And how long have we had solar?
Through the chair to council before my time, so in excess of 6 years.
Okay.
The services provided to the solar panels previous have all been completed by exterior Toronto firms.
Okay. And then I think you were asked this question, and I just want to be clear, because part of your financial analysis is the savings of the $25,000 based on equipment, but you don't have any total billing hours or any usage per month in which, so you don't have measurables on one side to say we're offsetting the costs. As my colleagues had pointed out, some of your hourly rates that are under proposal here are quite higher. So if we don't know what the total billing is and how much you use over the course of a week, say, average, to be able to say, in the end, are we actually going to make savings on the $25,000, or are we going to lose it because we're going to make up for it, or it's going to cost us more in the hourly? So I'm not sure how you, and maybe you did all that, but I guess your work hasn't really shown itself here in terms of trying to make a decision.
Through the chair to council, it depends on the number of projects in most cases moving forward. So the lighting projects, we've had a number of energy dollars provided to the city on an annual basis. Depending on what those projects are, it depends on what a lot of equipment is used. The day-to-day maintenance does not require on a light plug or examples like that. When we do larger retrofit lighting projects, we tend to require more specific, i.e. lifts and things like that. This year we have a number of projects moving forward again through the energy saving dollars. Some of them are the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center with all the arenas, the center corridor. There was work and dollars allocated to the fire halls as well. So again, there's a lot of lift required over the next year to 2 years. So that definitely played a factor. To go backwards, it's specific more to projects as they roll forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. McGlash, for answering the questions. I have a hard time trying to make a decision here when there's information that's missing. I think it's quite easy in terms of our billables to know exactly how much we're paying out in electrical costs and break it down even by the week. And simple multiplication then would tell us whether or not we're ahead or we're behind. But to sit here and then basically say we've got an offset of $25,000 we may save, but at the same token is that the hourly rate is so high. Without seeing the math here to be able to justify it, there just isn't enough information to make a good decision.
Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Carr there. I had a train of thought here. You spoke at one time the number of employees that the particular firm has. Have we ever had a problem where the contractor that we have now, whether we hire them again or not, it doesn't matter. Did they ever have a problem with providing staff to do their job?
Through the chair to council, I would say that we've deferred some activities based on what the response times are available to us.
But there's no guarantee even with the new company that we're not going to have to defer some projects.
Through your chair to council, that's true. In the process, we also ask for a response, what the response time is, as well, again, as markup on materials and a number of other factors.
And further, I certainly would like, as I said earlier, I'd like to see some figures that we spend on electricians over the year before I would even think of approving this motion at this time. So I'm possibly would like to table this for the next council meeting.
Okay, just before you do.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor McCaw did have a question.
Are you able to share with us tonight who our past contractor has been for the past, did you say 3 years plus 1 + 1, 5?
Through you, Chair to Council, DK Electric has provided the service to us.
The name?
DK Electric.
Okay, thank you.
And there is obviously concern for some missing information. And one of the other aspects of it is the rate per hour is obviously important, but the hours it takes to do particular jobs is also important as well, and the capabilities, and perhaps that can be incorporated. Sometimes a higher rate results in a lower cost based on the time it takes.
So I'd like to propose we table this particular contract or motion until the next council meeting, if I may.
Do I have a seconder?
For them?
Councillor Boyce, no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? It's passed, so table to the next meeting. Thanks, Mr. McLeish.
Pardon?
Item 8A8,
With that information.
Family Physician Recruitment Program, Manager of Economic and Strategic Initiatives Report number ECDEV. Oh, sorry, I just stopped myself. I forgot you were on. I'm waiting for you to arrive, sorry. 8A8, Family Physician Recruitment Program.
Okay, go back to that last project, please, just to clarify the motion, and that the request be made for figures to be brought forward.
It's already been noted.
Okay, thank you.
Resolution on 8A8 that pursuant to the Manager of Economic and Strategic Initiatives Report number ECDEV-2018-13, Council approve a public education campaign related to the shortage of family physicians in the region and across the province of Ontario, and that $2,500 from Council promotion account be allocated to this initiative. Can I have a mover, please? And Councillor Boyce and Mayor Christopher. Councillor Boyce.
Well, I think this is a great idea. I know Councillor Carr had brought forward the notion about the nurse practitioners, and I'm wondering, I'll agree with this, but I want to know where we are in that particular case.
Manager of Economic and Strategic Initiatives, Karen Post, is in the building, so with Council's permission. Did you hear the question?
Good afternoon. Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Certainly, the nurse practitioner issue is far more complicated than it may seem on the surface. What we've been able to determine so far is that nurse practitioners, the issue is not the availability of nurse practitioners. The issue is the availability of funded positions for nurse practitioners. So we've been working with the local health integration network as well as the Ministry of Health as well as Healthcare Connect, and there will be a report coming forward to Council at the next meeting in June.
Oh, okay. I'm happy to hear, and again, thank you to Councillor Carr for bringing that forward.
Your Worship.
Thank you. Great report to Karen, and it gives an opportunity for Council and I think all the citizens to make them aware of the commitment that this Council and staff has made of supporting physicians in healthcare, even though it's not in our portfolio. And there's been some discussion with Council, and there's been discussion through yourself, and you've done a great job articulating it and walking everybody through. But even though it's in a report, even though it's a public forum, I think it's really important for the public to know and recognize that the City of Belleville has committed millions and millions and millions of dollars to healthcare in our community. And we've had good return on those investments. We're 28 plus new physicians. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And in your report it shows 4.9 and climbing, but that's once we initiated the doctor recruitment program. Pre the doctor recruitment program, there was also a commitment with our partners of Viridian supporting the Bayshore Bayview Health Unit. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Mayor Christopher, yes. I mean, the city has, on a number of occasions, supported local and regional hospitals with funding. We have also worked on the Belleville Family Medical Center a number of years ago, back in 2001, 2002. So our estimates are that this council, the city, has spent over $20 million on healthcare in the city of Belleville.
So if I can, through the chair, being the author of the report, what is the message that that we need to send out there to the? I mean, it happens to be a unique situation where there's provincial elections, but I think it's important that we send out a message and we do an info commercial on behalf of the residents, our shareholders, and the stakeholders in the Corporation City of Belleville that we have not moved the mark down in our commitment to doctor recruitment. We just end up doing more, and we're committed to it. And thank God that we have the relationship with Viridian, and we use those resources. And it's a great decision on the council of yesterday and today and hopefully tomorrow that those commitments are made. But I think we need to send a message to the residents now, because the time is correct, that healthcare in the Bay of Quinte area is a provincial issue. And the message should be, we've spent millions of dollars. So you're talking doctor recruitment, the doctor recruitment program, then you're talking about millions of dollars have gone to KGH, which is a great program. Millions of dollars have gone to Quinte Healthcare, which is a great program, and plus other medical funding programs that have gone through the last 10, 12, 15 years. And we're very happy and we're lucky. But at the end of the day, that is a focus, that is a mandate, that is on the menu of the provincial government.
Through the chair to Mayor Christopher, just talking about messaging to our public, our physician recruitment has been incredibly successful. It's still very successful. We signed another physician at the most recent, previous council meeting. We're very lucky. But it feels like we're fighting a bit of a losing battle here. The province is responsible for training physicians. They're responsible for paying physicians. They're responsible for contracting with physicians. We have so little control over this. You may be aware that the province has been trying to negotiate a contract with doctors in this province for almost 4 years. It's gone to arbitration. It's been a very nasty fight between the OMA and local physicians, and we know, staff see that physicians are leaving the province as a result of that. So it's getting harder and harder for us to attract physicians, despite the fact we've got a fantastic program here. So what we'd love for the public to do, when they're on the Healthcare Connect waiting list, we would love for them to make sure that the province, their MPP, is aware of their situation and that they put more pressure on the province to deal with this physician shortage. We're only one voice at the table. If we can get our residents helping to make sure the province hears about this issue loud and clear, I think that's the time that a solution will come forward.
Thank you. And can I just add to that? So here's another curveball. I got some messages in the office from some residents that their doctor has retired, and now they're in the process of going through the Healthcare Connect program or getting referrals and finding another doctor. Now here's another bump in the road where they need to get their files sent over, and it's $100 a person. There could be 4 or 5 people in that family. That's a $500 tap to electronically hit the send button to send files. I think the company is SR or RS, I'm not sure, because I'm still checking this one out. That, again, another burden that should be taken care of by the province of Ontario, that the local taxpayer, like local citizens in every community, but I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about ours, Belleville, Bay of Quinte. I mean, they have to now send hundreds of dollars, again, to get their files that they own, that they paid in the province of Ontario to get them shipped to somewhere else. So I think this is a great file. It's a great report, but I just hope the message gets to the people on the ground. And they continuously ask potential and political people, what exactly is the plan, the grassroots plan to shift the funds the other way to healthcare, so local taxpayers can focus on municipal projects rather than provincial projects. So just a great report. Thank you very much.
Councillor McCaw.
Thank you to you. Karen, what will $2,500 get us, first of all, and is it going to be done in-house here?
Through the chair to Councillor McCaw. We think you can stretch $2,500 a really long way. This is the maximum amount we think we need to spend, and I suspect we will not need to spend all of that. We have incredibly effective social media sites. We've got our communications coordinator has managed to grow our contacts in social media to somewhere around 12,000. Most of what we put out on social media gets hundreds of shares and so on. So we think that a lot of the awareness we need to raise can be done at very little cost. But of course, a lot of our vulnerable populations are not on social media, so we need to use some traditional media in order to connect with those that may actually be in the most dire need of medical support.
Go ahead.
So is there something you can share with us as to how we're going to reach out to that group of people?
Certainly. We don't have a complete media plan yet, but we plan to use a variety of social media as well as traditional media to get out to our folks. We look to put inserts into any city notices that are going out to our residents as well.
Okay. Councillor Denias, then Penchuk.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Karen. Karen, I wrote when I was reading this report, this is a great report and timely. Your paragraph, page 5, the time is now to push the provincial government to address the issue of family physician shortages and distribution throughout the province. Very, very timely given the election. I just wish it could have been a question that we could have asked at a debate. I know that the Chamber reached out and asked for questions that could have been addressed, and I wish we would have had that opportunity to do that, or did we? I ask.
Through the chair to Councillor Denias. Actually, I did attend a Chamber event with the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, and healthcare issues are on the OCC platform for the provincial election, including the issue of family physician shortages. So, yes, it is on their platform, and yes, it is going forward to the province, to all the candidates.
Thanks, Karen.
Councillor Penchuk.
Thank you. And I attended the Chamber debate last week, and really there were no questions or answers that actually would make an impact and improve our system. There's no doubt about the fact that our system is, our healthcare system in Ontario is a mess. It is fundamentally broken. We have phenomenal people that are working in this system. I had a chance to visit Councillor Graham a week and a bit ago, and he talked about the individuals that work there and how great they are, but they're working in a broken system. And the only thing that makes our broken system worse is when we don't have doctors. And it's a credit to the foresight of people who set up the whole Viridian process to give us that revenue stream. It's a credit to the previous councils that decided to fund doctor recruitment through the Viridian stream. We spent $4.5 million to date. We're going to be over $5 million by the year 2020, according to your report. That has helped us so much, but we still have a situation where there's a mess. I speak to a lot of doctors who, you're quite right, Ms. Post, they are demoralized by the fact that the province is trying to demonize them for running businesses and trying to provide services to communities. And we can do all this work, but we're fighting an uphill battle when we have the provincial government at war with doctors. No one is served by that. And unfortunately, as you watch the provincial election campaign, everyone's talking about the fact that they're going to, they're going to fix healthcare, but with no plans to change the system, which again I say is fundamentally broken. So I agree with Councillor McCaw. I think $2,500 is nothing. I understand that we have to put our money where our mouth is because we don't have the support from the provincial level. I'll support this resolution, but I fundamentally understand that for us to grow as a community, healthcare is a basic need. And that we will likely be called to play a larger, more responsible role. It's unfortunate. I agree with the mayor in the sense of we shouldn't be doing it. That's provincial jurisdiction. But at the end of the day, our responsibility is to the residents of Belleville, and it's the right thing to do, again, in this case, to provide medical service through doctors. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you. Moving on to 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. Your Worship.
8B2 and 8B14.
Councillor.
Sorry. 2 and 14.
Councillor Daniels.
No, thank you.
Councillor Boyce. Councillor McCaw.
One here, 8B10.
10. And Councillor Panchuk.
Some items have already been covered. I'd like to add 8B13.
13. Councillor Thompson.
8B7 and 8B12.
And Councillor Carr.
8B2 and 8B14, please.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to ask for 8B5 and 8B6 be pulled for a couple of reasons. Also the fact that the mayor has declared conflicts on those.
Can we talk about it right now?
Yeah, we'll do that now. So if I can have a motion, do you have the numbers that we're clear for? To approve items 8B1, 8B3, sorry, 8B1, 8B3, 8B4, sorry, we're doing this the long way, as well as, okay, I've confused myself greatly. 8B8, 8B9. Let's do it this way. My apologies. My apologies. It's easier doing it this way. All items minus items 2, 5, 6, 10, 12, 13, and 14. I have a motion. Councillor Boyce, Councillor Panchuk.
Sorry,
did you
Councillor,
have
I think it's 8B11 as I'm looking through here.
Okay, and you also had
Councillor Boyce, Expense Report Approvals, Internal Control Review Study, that one.
Oh, so it's 11 you want, not 10?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, I had you down for 10. Okay, so we'll just run through those again. So all items except for 2, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Councillor Carr and Councillor Daniels, all in favor? Okay, sorry for that. Okay, we will, let's pull the ones, first of all, 8B5 and 8B6, as the mayor has declared a conflict, but also there is a change in the report. And so on 8B5, Combined Heat and Power, CHP Electrical Service Agreement and Land Lease Agreement between the City of Belleville and Meridian Connections, Mr. DeCola, I'm going to refer to him so he can explain to council.
Through the chair, good evening. I feel like a lounge singer right now, sorry. We just want to verify, as part of the electrical service agreement, there is subsection 9.2b and 9.2c. In 9.2b, it was a removal of a clause that said special purpose entity. It's removed in one version but not in the other, and just to verify that both are the same. And then 9.2c, basically it states that they cannot transfer a sign by the supplier Meridian Corporation without written consent from the municipality. Just want to make sure that both copies are the same.
So this has gone to the lawyers to be redone?
Yes, they've been verified. So 5 should be correct, 6 might have the different wording.
Okay, and 6 will be similar. We'll talk about that in a moment, but basically we're dealing with the same issues. So we're looking to actually pull those from the agenda, Mr. Clerk?
Through the chair, just for council consideration, on the final version that will be signed by the mayor and clerk, both versions will be verified, and there will be the clause will be corrected to make sure that the city's authorization will be required prior to any transfer.
I forget, is that in today's bylaws?
No.
No, okay.
We'll make sure that the version that you sign is as per your direction.
So as per the clerk, just passing on the information, we can authorize them today. They'll just ensure that the appropriate information is correct. So, Councillor Panchuk?
Together, just because I don't think there'll be any issue, so move them both together at the same time.
Is there a difference between the two?
Yes,
Director Fleur?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, through you, we request they be voted upon separately and motioned for both being separate,
Okay.
please. Thank you.
All right. Are you moving for approval? Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Denys. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that's passed. And 8B6, and that will be separate. Director Fleur, did you want to speak to it?
Just to repeat what Perry, General Manager, said, was all we were doing is essentially adding a clause to protect the corporation in case of any transfer, and this was added at just prior to the agenda set, so we had to do it on the floor, unfortunately. Sorry.
Okay, thanks. So if we can have an appropriate motion, Councillor Panchuk, Councillor Thompson. Any discussion? All in favor? And that is passed. Bring the mayor back in. Okay. 8B2, Property Standards Bylaw Amendment, Chief Building Officials Report, CBO 2018-04, and the resolution that pursuant to the Chief Building Officials Report, number CBO 2018-04, a bylaw to be prepared for Council's consideration to amend sections 3.3, 2, and 5 of Bylaw 2012-79 to reduce the period of time that a vacant building can be boarded up from 12 months to 6. Your Worship, this was yours. Do you want to put it on the floor?
Thank you very much. So I'll put it on the floor.
Okay.
My only request would be, through yourself, maybe to the clerk, is this going to be read first, second, and third time this evening? And if so, hopefully I'll get the support from the floor, just to have first reading only, at least to get circulated to the public in the commercial sector and the business and the building sector. And maybe we'll get some feedback and some public information, which is really what everything is all about. Thank you. I looked in there and I saw it.
It is down for all three, so do you want to
that-
address it at that time?
Well, do you want me to amend it? How would you like that done? I don't want to not support it. I just want it to be first reading only. What would be the process through the chair to the clerk?
Through the chair to the mayor, at second and third reading, you could pull it and give direction to put it out to public for comment.
Thank you.
Okay. So I didn't get a seconder on this, actually, for it to go on the floor. Councillor Carr, okay, you wanted to speak to it?
Yeah, just briefly, and through you to the mayor, definitely a good idea to get some input. I'd like to thank the chief building official for the report. It's that fine balance of we just can't let buildings fall in disrepair, accept plywood as cover for windows, and then just let that continue on. And like I said before, there's landmarks throughout our city where it's just become commonplace that plywood's acceptable in place of windows for years and years and years. And quite frankly, even our current bylaw says that after a year it should actually be torn down, and that isn't occurring. I think here we reduce it a little bit. It's not too heavy-handed. I would have preferred to go a little bit more, but that's just me. But this gives a good window of opportunity to recognize you got broken windows, order the windows, set up a contractor to fix the windows, and replace them. Some businesses are going to be into some endeavors here in terms of the windows they need to replace. That's unfortunate. But at the same token is they've allowed it to continue for so long, so hopefully they got some money saved up to fix it. But the reality is we need to do our best to stop urban decay, and we need to take this kind of measures to make sure that our community continues to grow in a very positive way, and that the image that we portray out there to prospective residents and businesses, and even for that matter attracting physicians, as we talked about earlier, we have to make sure that we're putting that good image forward, and we can't allow property standards to, or let it be acceptable that properties are allowed to go into a state of decline. Thank you.
Councillor Panchuk, did
Thank
you
you,
have your hand
Councillor
up?
Miller. Very quickly, just, you know, I think we've had a lot of discussion regarding vacant buildings, rundown buildings, dilapidated buildings, buildings that are eyesores in our city core. We've had a lot of discussion, and I have to say that the public, I think, is being very supportive of our work. And I'm all in favor of the Mayor's recommendation to have this go for one reading to hear back from people. And I suspect that what we're going to hear from them is that this is not even aggressive enough, that they're going to want to see a faster timeline that does not allow buildings to have boarded up windows for up to 6 months by the time then we trigger the investigation and how long it actually takes to get it corrected. I think we will find that property owners want to deal with eyesores much quicker, and that they maintain their properties and they expect anyone who has it should do it. So I'm encouraging everyone out there who, when they find out about this, to let us know how they feel, and I'm certainly open to advancing a more aggressive schedule than even the 6-month period.
Okay. Anyone else? All in favor? Passed. That was 8B2. We move on to 8B7. And that was supply and delivery of gateway signs, Capital and Fleet Asset Managers Report, CFAM 2018-09. Resolution that the tender submissions for contract RFT TOS 2018-07, supply and delivery of gateway signs, be rejected and contract be cancelled as the tender submissions received exceeds the approved budget. And that was Councillor Thompson. You're putting it on the floor. Can I have a seconder, please, for discussion? Your Worship. Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. On the prices that come in, and I know I budgeted $210,000, but the lowest bid came in at $378,000. Is there some reasonable explanation why they come in so high? Are we going to have to? There's got to be some reason why we have to go back and retender this. Is it material was too high or too expensive? Too many signs? Is somebody give me some explanation why there's such a difference in price?
Who is it?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, we're actually have a meeting scheduled on Thursday with the consultant who did the design to kind of go through the figures and determine exactly what happened. We're fiberglassed just as much as you are that the cost did come through as high as it did. So we're going to look at the scope of the project and kind of evaluate it.
So we're going to look at the design. We're going to look at the material.
Can you turn your mic on, please?
I did.
Now you have.
Oh, sorry. So we're going to look at material, design, the whole.
We're going to evaluate the features that were associated with it, maybe some of the plantings, some of the lighting that was associated with the signage. The design is set. We've it's been endorsed by council, so we want to kind of look at why the cost came in as high as it did. Our meeting, I think, is Thursday morning with Pace Design to kind of evaluate where it's at. So
we're going to be careful that we don't. When we go back for retendering, that we're not lowering the quality of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure it comes in with the design features that ties in as approved.
Anyone else on that matter? I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that is passed. Moving on to B11, Council Employee Expense Report Approvals, Internal Control Review Study, Director of Finance Treasurer's Report, DF 2018-15, Resolution that the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report Number DEF 2018-15, Council Employee Expense Report Approvals Internal Control Review Study be received. That's Councillor McCaw. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Thompson. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you, through you. I guess to Mr. Cousins, I know that there's a matter coming before the Audit Committee in the near future with respect to some of the allocations of expenses. I'm looking at Mr. Kester's expenses. Is that completely Mr. Kester's expenses, or would that have any other factors or things he may have arranged for council members to go to various functions?
Director Cousins.
Through the chair to Councillor McCaw, this is CAO's expenses that were reimbursed and paid for by the city and attributable to Mr. Kester.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Call the vote. All in favor? And that is passed. 8B12, Plumbing Services Contract for various City of Belleville locations. And the report request for proposal submission from Don Kelly Plumbing Limited be accepted for the supply of plumbing services in the amount of $48 per hour, regular rate, $72 per hour overtime and stat holiday rate for a licensed plumber, and $35 per hour, regular rate, $52.50 per hour overtime and stat holiday rate for plumber apprentice, this being the only submission received, and that the mayor and city clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the corporation of the city of Belleville, and the city clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal, and that is Councillor Thompson. And can I have you're moving it, and Councillor Panchuk seconding, and Councillor Thompson.
A couple of questions. Why would this be under consent items and the electrical ones under report? That's probably my first question.
If council approves, we'd have Mr. McGlashan come back to the podium, please.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, the reason why this is an 8B and the other was an 8A, tenders, RFPs, contract awards that are 8As are if they exceed the budget, if they're not the lowest, or if they're over, I think there's a threshold in the purchasing bylaw. 8Bs are if they're low bid, on budget, or under that threshold.
Okay, then the second question is, so I understand then with this process, different than the electrical, we only had one bid for the plumbing?
Mr. McGlashan?
Through the chair to council, that is correct. There was only one submission received.
And the and from the previous contract, it's up or down?
Through the chair to council, it's the same amount.
Same amount. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Panchuk.
Yeah, thank you. Through you to Mr. McGlashan. Can you tell me how many hours last year we used contractors for providing plumbing services?
Through the chair to council, I can't provide that off the top.
Okay, well, you know, and I think this is something that is a real problem for us as council. There's no other bid on this, and I can appreciate that, but if we did have different bids and we're looking at the budget, we're being given an hourly rate without an understanding of what we spend on plumbing contracted services. To me, that's a basic part of what we are expected to have to use to make a decision, and that when I'm being looked at offering $48 for regular rate, $72 an hour for statutory and holidays, as well as paying for a plumbing apprentice with an open-ended budget. Because right now I don't have any information that can tell me what it is. Do we know how much we spent in 2017 on plumbing contract services?
Through the chair to council, I can't provide that off the top. The plumbing is allocated back to individual building budgets, not to one central point. So if 400 Coleman requires a plumbing for a toilet because my two in-house staff aren't able to repair it, then that gets billed back specifically to that building, not to a plumbing line, not to a single line budget.
All right. Okay, well, thank you. Maybe I can just suggest to Mr. Kester or Mr. McDonald, as we are looking at budgets, obviously I think this council has been asking different questions than perhaps previous councils, but to me that's a no-brainer in terms of what we need included in the reports. A comparison. What did we spend in the previous year? If it is $5,000 or is it $500,000? And we're being asked to make financial decisions, awarding to contracts. You know, I'm going to vote in favor of this because we've only had one submission. But if we would have had multiple submissions, I would be asking for a tabling motion to get that information for us to do it. But I would like a report back to council in the future what the 2017 expenditures were for contracted services for plumbing related activities. Thank you.
Director Fleur, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to reassure council in this process, and as you're going through a procurement process, and you've already previously approved the budget. So these are allocations by the hour or not by the hour, but we would not exceed previous council approval for budget in allocations of all the repairs and maintenance that would be required on all the buildings and facilities within the city. So this is spread out throughout all of the departments. So this is in all of the buildings, from our water treatment plant to our city hall to wherever that may be. So I understand your question. I'm not suggesting that this answers that question, but it does give some level of reassurance that what we're bringing to you is a document that shows a procurement process that we went through and gradation of that process from a 1 through whatever scale based on request. And then it's scored by the committee. And part of the score of the committee is also to see whether it meets our requirements, meets our budgets, and whether it meets all of the standards and requirements under either ESA or other levels of service. So the reassurance you have when you are voting for this is that you previously approved the budget. The budgets have all been allocated, repairs and maintenance within the various buildings, facilities, and all of the other services within the city have previously been approved, and we would not exceed that without your permission and approval as per the bylaw.
You know, Justin, I don't mean to be argumentative, but by that logic, I don't understand why we're even approving the contracts then, because they should be fit within the budgets and the departments should administer them. There is a reason why we approve budgets, so that we can ask these questions. That's fundamental information that I believe that we need. And in the future, I would just ask that that be included in the reports, so we have an understanding, at least, about what it is we're talking about. I understand how the purchasing bylaw works. I understand what council's responsibility are for approving contracts. But what I'm saying, though, is if you're asking us to approve contracts without providing us the information to be able to make a good decision, then what's the point of approving the contract? So thank you. I'm sure that we'll have information about the hours and the total amount billed for 2017 at a future meeting.
And staff have confirmed that that will take place. Thanks, Councillor Panchuk. All in favor of 8B13? And that is passed. 8B14, temporary noise permit application under bylaw. Sorry. 8B12. Oh, I'm sorry, 8B12. My apologies. All in favor of 8B12? Thank you. 8B13, community standards bylaw to regulate medical marijuana facilities. Information provided to Planning Advisory Committee at the May 17, 2018 meeting that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends to City Council to direct staff to prepare a community standards bylaw. Councillor Panchuk. Can I have a seconder to put it on the floor? It's Councillor Denye's. Councillor Panchuk.
Thank you very much, Councillor Miller. So I'm happy that we're starting this process. I appreciate the information that Councillor Denier, Chair of the Planning Committee, has provided to us in the report. If I could just ask, I'm assuming it's Director Beauvais, but if I can just ask him what process staff will be going through to prepare a bylaw for our consideration. I note that in Councillor Denier's report, they've talked to a number of other cities who have already done these types of activities and they're considering it. How will we determine which communities that we will borrow from? And then the second question, which I think is the more important one, I understand that right now we're circulating amongst the community in the planning process a application for a cannabis facility in the industrial park. How is it that we will consider that application in the absence of this bylaw? I know we can do it, but I'm just trying to have an understanding of, we want a community service, a community standards bylaw to help guide us through that process, but at the meantime, we're going to have a parallel process where we have an existing application. If I can just get that understanding, please.
Director Beauvais.
Through the chair to Councillor Panchuk. Well, I'll start with your last question first. I mean, irregardless of whether we have a community standards bylaw or not, there is a planning process, provincial planning process that we have to operate in. So when someone comes forward with the rezoning, we have to process it, and you know, until we have that community standards bylaw that may direct applicants to consider or reconsider what properties they may be looking at developing, then we'll have to sort of take the rezonings as they come. And that application is going to the Planning Committee next Monday. And then in terms of the bylaw, I think we'll be looking to discuss certainly at the staff level. And then we've also, of course, had discussions with Belleville Police regarding a previous motion from council on the setting up of a committee, almost like an implementation committee for cannabis legislation going forward. And there may be some synergies there between that committee that we're looking to establish and having them help with preparation of the community standards bylaw. And certainly in discussing it with Deputy Chief Callahan, he had some good suggestions on who he thinks should be part of the committee, and certainly Belleville Police are happy to be part of that committee. He had some suggestions from the community, different community groups that should be part of it, as well as obviously city staff.
Well, that's excellent news. And then the question I always like to ask is, what do we think the timeline is for that type of bylaw to be able to come back to Belleville City Council for approval and then implementation?
That's a tough one to answer. Certainly, this stuff's new to everybody, so we're going to be relying on, as you mentioned, other communities and looking at what they've done, and certainly no doubt there's some good bylaw examples out there, and if we can take advantage of those and use them, then it saves the committee a lot of work, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of commonalities between all municipalities in Ontario that are going through this. So that should speed up the process and get something back. But in terms of, I don't know how those agencies are going to react to being part of the committee and what time commitments they can make to be part of the process. So certainly if we get good response from them, then we can get to it a lot quicker than we otherwise would.
Councillor Denius.
Thank you, and I will speak to this. I wasn't going to, but I will now that Councillor Panchuk's brought that up. You may or may not recall at the council meeting where we had the deputation regarding the one and only application that we have right now. I did bring this community standards bylaw forward that evening, and with all the confusion with the deputation and the way things were unclear in the end, it was decided that the best place to bring this community standards bylaw through the council process would be to go back through planning, and that's where we went. And I can say that when I brought that forward at the Planning Advisory Committee, it was, as you may recall, I think Councillor Panchuk, you were present representing one of the missing members that night, that it was a unanimous vote. But I did try to get this going as soon as we had our very first application to try and circumvent things. But anyway, it didn't go that way, and now we're going through the process.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that is passed. AP 14, temporary noise permit application under bylaw 2011-180 for 458 West Moira Street. That the Mike Trumbull application for the issuance of a temporary noise permit under the bylaw to have a mud fest and live music for an outdoor event at 458 West Moira Street, June 30th and July 1st, 2018, be approved. This is the mayor's and Councillor Carr's. Put it on the floor.
Yep.
Either one of you.
I'll move it. Thank you.
Okay, and seconded.
You're all slick.
Not Councillor Carr.
I'm not going to.
Okay, can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Panchuk. It is on the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So what I would like, hopefully, council support that we pull this particular permit and maybe start a process from here on in. Maybe it'd be nice for this particular project to be referred to the CN police, local police, or fire EMS, because it's actually located on Moira Street and you got to cross over the tracks. And it's always nice, because I know on the first floor they are inundated after this event. This is like year 3, 4, 5, whatever, because I've seen some of the notes, which is just the most important thing is the safety of the people. And we have a lot of infilling now and residential density. And the other thing is on the application, the applicant comments about all these organizations. Well, it's also nice, and I know it's easy for us to say here, but maybe on this first floor, it's also nice to get letters of support from those agencies that just happen to be on an application form. So hopefully we get support from council. At the present time, we send this back, pull it, ask the applicant or the staff can send it to CN Police, local police, fire, EMS, so we can get a comment back. Because I'm just concerned about the safety of where this particular activity happens. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, and further to that, for all of council's consideration, we have dealt with this in the past, and as the emergency management, under my emergency management hat, we had some concerns, and we worked with CN Police, and in the end, they had to provide spotters and other systems in place to deal with the fact that you had a lot of people crossing over a very dangerous section of tracks, and hopefully we would be able to work with those people again to ensure that everyone, if it's going to take place, that it's safe. Safety is the top priority for these people if they're going to have this event, and I would suggest that that's an excellent avenue to engage the different services that we can be involved at the front end, rather than responding on the back end.
Thank you very much.
I need a little clarity, though, on your intent. The resolution is to approve it.
Yeah, no, just to pull it and send it to staff, and staff will
Okay,
send it to
so
the agencies for comment.
Okay, so you want this to go down to the feet, just to refer it on?
Yes, and just get some direction from the clerk.
So if it's approved by the seconder, it'd be a friendly amendment to refer it to CN Police, Belleville Police, Fire, and EMS for comment, and then return back to council.
Thank you. I'm good with that.
Okay.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Who seconded it?
Councillor Panchuk.
Councillor Panchuk. Friendly amendment. Anyone else on that? Councillor Thompson.
Well, and I don't dispute the logic of having it, if we send this to the different agencies and we won't have it back till June, is this still leaving the time frame okay for this event to take place?
Mr. McDonald.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, the event is shown on the resolution being June 30th and July 1st weekend. So we'll send it out early this week with a request to those 4 agencies to get comment back to us so that it can come back to you for June 11th meeting. All of the emergency services groups that are mentioned in the referral are well aware of this event.
Thanks. Anyone else? I'll call the vote with the friendly amendment. All in favor? And that is passed. There is no 8C. 8D, rise and report. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Carr, Councillor Boyce, all in favor? Thank you.
Okay, great job, Councillor Miller. So, under bylaws, obviously the first reading and the second reading of the bylaws, the members may debate. First reading of the bylaws, if it's consent of council, I'll read the numbers: 2018-75, 2018-76, 2018-77, 2018-78, 2018-79, 2018-80, 2018-81, and 2018-82. First reading of the bylaws, moved by Councillor Carr, second by Councillor Boyce. All in favor? That's carried. If it's consent of council, I'll pull 2018-82. So it'll be first reading only. Councillor Carr?
Thank you. Just a question on procedure. So we're pulling this for first reading for circulation. When do we anticipate a return date?
Yeah, I'll refer that to the clerk.
Through the chair, for all of council, we'll work with Chief Building Official on the best way to get public comment on that, because during the discussion earlier, I was thinking on how best to do public consultation on that. It will be a bit of a challenge because who are we consulting with? So it will be a little bit of a challenge to how to target that and get comment from the general broad public as to that. So you'll have to leave that with me. It will be a little bit, it won't be a terribly long process, but I'm not sure how we're going to effectively get public consultation done and back to you, because it doesn't do you or us a lot of good to get no comments, because there are people that are certainly going to have something to say about this, and we want to make sure we get it to them.
And if I can add to that to the clerk, maybe through Councillor Carr, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you get it on the agenda on planning, which is in 2 weeks under under public, I haven't got an agenda in front of me.
Public meeting?
Thank you. And just let the public know. It's complete, you're the chair, it's up to you. Excuse me, you're the chair, it's up to you. It just, again, gets it to the public. They're more than welcome to come to the podium if there's any business owners or commercial owners or property owners, and they can make it, okay, thank you.
Do we need a motion for that?
No. You're the chair of planning. Just get to staff and they'll get that on your agenda. Second reading of the bylaws, and we, with consent, we've pulled 2018-82. So 2018-75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81. Second reading of the bylaws moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? All opposed? It's carried. Third reading of the bylaws, consent of numbers, and again, I'll pull 2018-82. So it'll be 2018-75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, and 81. Third reading of the bylaws, moved by Councillor Boyce, second by Councillor Carr. All in favor? All opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Any new business? Councillor McCaw.
Thank you. Through you, if I could just ask Director Bovey a few questions. Getting some response and feedback from residents regarding the Sydney Street construction. Could you give us a little bit of feedback on exactly what's happening and when we hope it will ever conclude, if it ever does? Thank you.
Through the chair to Councillor McCaw, actually the final paving is scheduled to take place this Wednesday, so it will finally be over. We elected a year and a half ago, I guess now, to put the base asphalt down. There were some issues with settlement on that project in various locations along Sydney Street. So we elected to leave the asphalt, the base asphalt down just for 2017. There was some additional settlement, but not to any great degree, so the contractor came back this spring, fixed up those settlement areas. Luckily enough, our colleagues in operations decided to put in a mid-block crossing after the fact, so we were able to get those ducts across before the final lift of asphalt went on. And as I say, it'll be finished up, should be pretty much finished by the end of this week.
And my second question, please. Could you please give me a status update? I asked you about this before. It's been a long time, so I'm going to ask again. The cracked and falling apart Street Bridge.
Through the chair to Councillor McCaw, that continues to be a problem. What we have looked at doing is the upper bridge will be coming up for rehabilitation as well. So as part of that bridge, we're going to look at a different approach to repairing the arch bridges. They're very unique to the city, obviously, and they're fairly unique across Ontario. And by looking into sort of different alternatives, we'll see what we can do to repair the Bridge Street Bridge. In the meantime, Public Works is trying to keep on top of any of the parts that are, or the chunks that are coming loose, and getting them off before they're a hazard to anyone. We have had some ongoing back and forth with our contractor and the insurance company, the bonding company. It's one of those that's the blame is getting passed around in circles, and we're not getting any further ahead on that. So we're looking to try and find a solution that we can use on the upper bridge, and then take that and include that work on Bridge Street with the upper bridge contract, so they'd get done at the same time and hopefully solve the problem.
So just in follow-up, will we then have some, of the original contractor, probably not the same contractor, but will we then have some refund of money, considering the fact that the job wasn't done, either it was done incorrectly or it was a substandard product?
Well, that's the challenge, because you have the contractor who claims he followed along the design that was prepared for the city by a consulting engineer. The consulting engineer said they relied on the product doing the job based on the supplier that they identified. The supplier says the contractor didn't put it on right. So we're going in circles, and unfortunately, the cost to do the repairs is probably very small compared to the cost that the city would incur on trying to fight it through the courts, and may not get any satisfaction out of that. So we're trying to sort of balance what makes sense with ultimately getting the bridge fixed in the long run.
Thank you. Councillor Miller?
Thanks, Your Worship. As long as Director Bove has been getting comfortable getting up and down, actually, the question I have that's been asked, people are getting a little excited as they're noticing a fence around a rather derelict property on North Front Street that has been discussed at this table from time to time. Used to be the home of a restaurant at one time. There's 2 buildings. Does that fence indicate some progress on where this is headed?
Through the chair to Councillor Miller, yes, it does. We had issued orders to a fairly new owner of the property to demolish the 2 buildings. This ties into the earlier discussion around vacant buildings. The owner, the newer purchaser of it, had plans to redevelop it and was on board with it. They changed their plans and then turned around and put it up for sale. There is now another purchaser who has plans to demolish the Sunluck building and has submitted a demolition permit application. He has plans to restore the building to the south of that and make use of it. He hasn't indicated any plans for the Sunluck property at this point, but he has arranged for the fencing to go up and has agreed to keep the property in terms of the grass and garbage cleaned up a little bit better than it has been, and he's planning on moving forward with demolition right away on the Sunluck building.
So timeline-wise, has he given any indication?
No, I don't know what's on the application. I haven't seen it, but we did meet with him 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's from the Kingston area, so he knows the property. He's quite anxious to move forward from the sounds of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Deniers?
Thank you, Your Worship. Tonight's the evening for planning issues. So at the May 7th, 2018 Planning Advisory Committee meeting, there was an application before us for a proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 586 Ashley Street, formerly in the Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1046. The owner was Marlene Bolter. The applicants were Michael Hooving and Timothy Klommaker, and the agent was Van Meer Limited. So the motion before the Planning Advisory Committee was that we approve the application, and in a vote, the motion failed. So we need to bring it forward to the council here today so that it moves the matter forward, because right now it's in abeyance. So with it failing, the applicant would have to wait 150 days if they chose to go to appeal. So by moving this motion forward that it had failed, I need council to confirm that we denied the motion today, so that they can proceed with an appeal if they wish, because 150 days is a long time to wait. So I don't know if they're going to do that, but anyway, I just thought we would move that forward.
So is that, you're making a motion?
I need the motion by council confirming the denial of that motion from May 7th.
Okay, so we'll get that on the 4th. So that's moved by Councillor Deniers, second by Councillor Carr. Any questions? Councillor Panchak.
So, because if I recall, I was one of the votes that was in favor of the project. So, just in terms of, to be consistent for me here today, I'll be voting against this motion because I voted in favor of it at the meeting. I understand the process that Councillor Deniers is doing, but I think just in order to be consistent with it, that's what I'll do. And I don't want to ask for a recorded vote, but if it can just be noted that I was voting against this motion, please.
Okay, any more discussion on the floor? So can I just, Councillor Thompson?
Yeah. I understand what she's doing, but I don't have anything in front of me to vote on one way or another.
Okay, so I'll get a comment from the clerk.
If I can, through the chair, just for council's sake, so this is a PAC file that the staff recommendation was to approve the file for mini storage on Ashley Street and behind the homes on the north end of the street. PAC generally would have denied the application and had a follow-on motion to recommend to council a denial of the application, which is what's generally being attempted here tonight. If they didn't, and they didn't, in discussion with folks on the second floor, the eventuality is that 150 days from the completed application being submitted, the applicants can file an appeal of a no decision. From our perspective, that's a long time to wait. So it either goes now, or generally we'll put it back on PAC for June 4th. 2 weeks later, June 11th, it'll come back to council. So it would go back to PAC and then back to council. So in effect, all we're trying to do is show a little bit of fairness to the applicant and the owner of the property to allow them to. So it would have been in the PAC agenda that you got a month ago, unfortunately. It was an oversight and procedure on our behalf, but there was nothing for us to bring forward to you because, in effect, the motion failed and it just sits there. And unfortunately, we're just trying to show some fairness to the applicant so they can proceed if they so choose. From my perspective, there's been nothing in the clerk's office from the applicant or the owner, and Rod's shaking his head as well. So, but again, it's literally just a hung file at this point.
Okay, any more comments from the floor? So just for clarity to the Chair of Planning, it's the resolution that was approved at PAC that you just bring in forward, and that resolution was denied.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
The resolution failed
Yes.
at planning. Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, we have it on the floor. All in favor? All opposed? That's carried. Any more new business? Motions? Notice of motions? Announcements? Councillor Miller?
Thanks, Your Worship. A couple of them. Beginning this Friday, Belleville Transit will have our new trolley bus on the road, and it will be running for the first time at 11 o'clock on Friday morning for the public. And in as much as it's very much a tourist vehicle, so to speak, in that it will be certainly highlighting a lot of the history of the city of Belleville while it visits sites, it will also be a vehicle that anybody can use at the usual fairs to access points that aren't currently served by Belleville Transit, most notably for this time of year, Myers Pier and Zwick's Island, and it will also be servicing the casino as well. So that's another route that will be going to the casino. It's a 1-hour route, and again, it begins this coming Friday. You can't miss it, as they've been wrapped as a trolley. We've done 2 buses, and a lot of the cost of that has been absorbed by sponsors. So great job to Manager Paul Buck and his staff, and I know Council, this has been talked about for quite a while, and it will help us on our tourist efforts, and it will also be a practical use for gaining destinations within our community that are highly desirable in the summertime. The other thing I wanted to bring forward is Parkdale Park, and Council will recall the presentation that was made by the Field of Ability Committee, which I also sit with, and a number of staff members do as well, that this is going to be launched officially on Sunday from 10 until noon at Parkdale Park 2, and there's a full family program that is being put together for the day. This is the fully accessible project for special needs, for baseball, for other outdoor sports, basketball. Special Olympians will be able to utilize this as well. We have a number of feelers out, applications for grants that we're awaiting word on, and of course donations are accepted through the City of Belleville, which gets you a receipt as well. But on behalf of the committee, I'd like to invite all of Council, and everyone for that matter, to come out and see what it's all going to be about. It's this Sunday on June the 3rd from 10 until noon, Parkdale Park off Sydney Street, and this is going to be something wonderful for our community and in our goal to make this an accessible community and a community that reaches out to all. Thank you.
Very nice. Okay, I've got a couple of proclamations here and 4 announcements. So for May 28, 2018, I would like to proclaim Saturday, June the 2nd, as National Health and Fitness Day in the City of Belleville. And please help myself and fellow council spreading the word to the citizens of Belleville. Also, I would like to proclaim the week of June the 4th to the 10th as Parachute Safe Kids Week in the City of Belleville. This week we will promote awareness of child concussions. And I would also like to proclaim the upcoming month of June as Seniors Month. As our June 11th, the meeting will be announcing Belleville Senior of the Year. So that's very nice. Maybe you should let Gurney read that one. Why is everybody laughing? So I've got three events that I participated at, and when I come back, I'll be reaching to Councillor Thompson to update council in the gallery about our sign, and also I'll be reaching out to Councillor Boyce to update about the charging station for the bicycles. So the events that I had a pleasure of attending the last couple of weeks, I went to Harry J. Clark and did a little follow-up Q&A with the students there. They were very impressed, and they had some great questions about our green program, our recycle program, and our garbage program. So congratulations to staff and council. They were getting the message out there. We had a great Q&A. And matter of fact, they made all these beautiful painting portraits, and I'll have them displayed up on the glass office by tomorrow afternoon. Also had the pleasure of attending the Girl Guides Awards. It was quite the experience. St. Joe's School came last week. We had 42 children, and we spent about an hour and a half together. And also had an opportunity to go to Quinny Secondary Grade 10 and 11 civics class and talk about municipal governance. And also had the pleasure attending with our CEO the World Council of City Data in Kingston last Friday. And also earlier today I had a Q&A with some Queen's University medical students. So the Karen Post and staff is doing a phenomenal job with our partnerships with Viridian. So it's been a great 10 days. So I'll just reach, and I don't want to catch you by surprise, and if I did, I apologize, but they're both great news stories. So, Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Buck for the special arrangements and getting Councillor Graham here today. He made some special arrangements to get the bus here and take him home, so thank you, Mr. Buck. The second thing, the sign, the trailer is fully made by a contractor on 62. It's ready. It's at the North Park Street. The letters are being installed today and tomorrow by the sign company out of Kingston and Escroyd Signs. They anticipate it all be ready tomorrow. Then I will have some discussion with the mayor exactly when we're going to unveil the sign. We have a total of 14 programs in this sign that will continuously change. We can leave it on one color for a period of time, have a continuous color. We picked 14 different reasons why we changed the colors, and they will all be displayed. So we're pretty excited. It's beautiful. I seen it this morning being put together. I think you'll be very, very pleased with the sign when you all see it. Completely portable, and they towed it from the place where it was made to North Park Street. It towed very well, and we will be unveiling it within the next week, unless we unveil it at the convention that we have next week that Mr. Reid is looking after. So thank you very much.
And colors that you're ordering, a little hint for November this year, make sure you order that color.
I think we made a few people very happy by saying that we had picked one of the colors of being orange, but we had great discussion. The committee was involved in it, and Mr. Glover and a number of others were involved in picking the colors.
Good, thank you. Councillor Boyce, can I reach out to you about the bike charging station?
The bike repair stations?
Yes,
sir. As part of the ongoing pursuit by this council and the city on providing safe cycling, we've certainly the generosity of Cross-Border Solutions, the city, and the break room, we've put in the city 3 bike repair stations. People can use to, if they've got a wobbly tire or anything loose on their bike, and they have basic mechanics, they can certainly do those repairs. There's an air pump. There's certainly different tools and ratchets available that are attached to of the station at Lions Park, Riverside, and Myers Pier. And we're hoping to, and I also want to thank the Green Team as well, and we're hoping that other potential sponsors come forward and contact us so that we can provide these reliable stations throughout the city.
Excellent. Good stuff, thank you. I had the Tesla thing on my mind when I said charge new station. Okay, item number 14, confirmatory bylaw, that a bylaw 2018-83, bylaw confirm the proceedings of council. The meeting held today, the 28th of May, be read first, second, and third time as the clock goes ding-dong, and passed the 28th day of May. Moved by Councillor Miller, second by Councillor Panchak. All in favor, that's carried. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Denius. Thank you. Big hockey game tonight, 8 o'clock.